Hi everyone, it's Monday, October 18th, and it is the fifth in the series of weblogs that I'm going to create on the larger concept of cultural transformation. Yes, I've decided to use the notion of cultural transformation as the sort of general branding category. Let me begin by saying that my friend Jay Standish, a couple of days ago, suggested to me that it's not sufficient just to bang the drum loudly. Incidentally, I play in a marching band here in Canada, and I play a drum, and I get, even in that context, accused of banging my drum too loudly. So I see a pattern emerging. With that in mind, I want to focus more on the solution side. I think I've identified at least one problem that I'm interested in solving. And the focus that I want to take for today's video is on the role that technology plays in all of this. And part of the reason that I want to do this is that I feel like my friends at Open Collab might be feeling that there's been a bit of a bait and switch. Open Collab is obviously about the concept of open collaboration, technology infrastructure, etc. And suddenly I'm talking about social finance. Well, it's really important for all concerned to understand that the principles that underlie the discussions on technology and so on, the other things that go on in Open Collab are essential to the problems that I'm trying to solve in the social finance space, or the solution that I'm proposing in the social finance space. And exactly what that connection is something that I need to establish. So let me begin by trying to create some context on the technology side. The technology revolution that we're currently in the midst of is the result of the convergence of three things. One is the ubiquity or the dispersion of broadband infrastructure. The second is the dramatic dropping in price of, obviously, processing power. And the third is the dropping in price of memory. The convergence of all these things leads to the creation of the real-time infrastructure and the dispersion of power in the network to the edge, right? So we now have iPads and iPhones and so on and so forth proliferating, and there's going to be more and more of this. So you're going to have basically computers in your hand, right? Now, so what does this do? What it does is it changes the interaction paradigm. It changes the way that we can interact. We now have the ability to communicate in real time, to have rich media, to have access to massive amounts of data as we move around in space and time. This has extraordinary implications for many things, not least of which is the nature of how organizations work and the very structure of organizations themselves. As we've seen in the Open Collab discussion list, with a couple of projects that have been proposed about sort of open architectures, running organizations openly, what's the right model, and so on. All of these discussions arise because the pattern of interaction has changed, right? So it's all about the interaction paradigm changing. And to the extent to which the interaction paradigm changes, a whole lot of other things become possible. Now, central to this notion, associated and central to this notion, is the concept of visibility. We now have the ability to see into systems or see whatever from the edge of the network, from wherever we are, however we so choose, right? So now this is really, it's an important idea. Now, to illustrate what I mean by visibility into a system, I think the best way to do that is by way of analogy. The best example that I can think of visibility into a system, quite frankly, is Facebook. Facebook, I find, and I believe to be an extraordinarily powerful platform. The system into which Facebook provides visibility is a system of human social relations. You can see events, you can see who's friends with who, you can see that you have 58 friends in common with Joe, and so on and so forth. And it provides a lot of information about social organization. This information then is used by you however you so deem, right? And it, for those that use Facebook, you really realize that it adds a lot of value, and it just changes the dynamics of how you interact. And I think that is something that I don't need to explain much further. What is important to understand is that we have the option to describe what systems we provide visibility into. Those that were involved with or have been or are involved with Open Collab from the word go recall that I and others were exploring the notion of project matching, matching needs and resources and missions and so on and so forth. So the idea is to think about the fact that organizations and projects and companies and so on all sit within a system of relations. Now, this is nothing new, right? The organizations and companies always did. I mean, suppliers and partners. This has been the case since the beginning of sort of industrialization, because nobody operates in a vacuum. What's different today is that we can provide visibility into this system of relations. So we could construct an infrastructure that provides us with an idea and data about these relations. Okay? Now, so what's possible with that? I mean, I think potentially a lot. So when I'm proposing the ecosystem collab, pooled fund idea and the notion of an ecosystem, a system of relations and so on, I'm doing that in the context of a technology revolution, if you will, that makes it possible to make visible those relations, right? So when I'm talking about, well, let's fund a group of projects together, I'm not talking about that as being of the same import as it would be if we did it 10 years ago. I'm talking about it as having different implications today. Now, this is all well and good. Also, what needs to be considered is that in this context, we're changing on a personal level. We're interacting differently, right? So it's not like, okay, well, we could set up this visibility infrastructure and then all of a sudden, well, 10 projects are going to work together as a function of this, Facebook type or platform that allows visibility. It's also that we're interacting differently. We have these PDAs, we have these iPads, we walk around, we're used to cross-boundary interaction, etc. So I see this as a conversion of forces, right? A change in the interaction pattern, a change in what we have visibility into, all of which makes the notion of collaborating and working together across boundaries something that we can think about. Now, admittedly, the creation of the pooled fund in and of itself, is not sufficient. It's got to be in the context of these changes in the interaction pattern. So even if we do set up this infrastructure, it's going to be necessary that those that participate in the infrastructure also understand that they need to sort of be open to participating with each other, to collaborating with each other, to engaging with each other, and to behaving and interacting differently now that we have the possibility to do so, if you will. That's what I think is the power of the new paradigm and the power of what's happening. And, it's in this context that we have the ability to define new capital allocation models, new ways of converging and collaborating, new ways of solving crowdsourcing ideas. All kinds of interesting things happen if we understand that the technology paradigm changes the game. It changes everything, right? So in the sense that it does change everything, let's try to define and develop information models or information architectures that get data or describe data about projects and people and whatever in such a manner that we solve pressing problems, right? So in other words, let's go back to that question that I posed in the previous inflammatory post, which is figure out what your values are, figure out what you're trying to do, and then construct the models on top. So I'm saying let's understand we're in this technology context. Let's create the information models that become possible to solve the problems that we want to solve. Okay, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about data structures and information modeling in this video. There's not enough time, but I just wanted to sort of get that out there and let the Open Collab folks know that I'm not going veering way off track. I'm saying, let's take all the things that we've been talking about in Open Collab and let's just solve a really pressing problem. In the next little while, I'll probably maybe focus more on this architecture issue and try to paint this picture a little bit. That said, I really don't know how these video logs are going to, unfold, because I'm partly just responding to what kind of feedback I get and so on and so forth. So that's probably enough for today. Thanks a lot, and I'll see you when it is appropriate to post again, which may or may not be daily.